Okay, I'm starting off hot here today.
You're starting off?
Yeah,
Okay,
I got a joke.
Yeah, you got a joke.
It's such a shit
You
joke.
just wanted to make me laugh. You
I actually
loosen me up here or something?
but I don't know if you're gonna laugh at it because it's a tough joke. You might not get it, but you might get it.
Okay. So
Okay.
I'll follow up with one.
Sure.
And-
Oh, like just like that too. You got it.
Yeah. Well, you don't sit around with the boys and not have something funny to say,
Okay.
even though it's the dumbest thing ever.
This is so
Okay,
dumb.
go.
Okay, ready?
You go.
It's an actual joke.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, go.
Okay, so last night I got home and I'm doing my dishes, and my brother goes up to the fridge to like get something to eat or whatever, and he knocks on the fridge before he opens the door.
Okay.
So I go, "Why'd you knock on the fridge door?" And he looked at me and he goes, "There could be a salad dressing."
Jesus.
Salad
No,
dressing.
I get it. It's not funny.
Putting on clothes.
No, I get it. So did he do it on purpose?
Yeah. Well, so I actually just made up the story. I heard the joke somewhere else.
That's the one I like. Because you know when I tell a joke, I go detail and dig it in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
everyone thinks it's a true story all the time. And then they tell the joke.
It's never a
It's-
true
no,
story.
No, it's good. Okay, I'll follow up with one.
Okay, go ahead.
Bear walks into a bar and he walks up to the bar and he goes, "Hey, bartender, I'll have a beer." The bartender goes, "What's with the pause?"
Okay.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
I get it.
Okay.
It's not funny.
Pause.
What's with the pause? You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because it's like bear pause or just a pause.
Thank you.
Neither funny.
I love telling it to kids because they go, "What?"
The funniest when we were kids, you used to do that on the ice sometimes,
Yeah, I always
and
tell
no
you
one
a joke.
ever gets it.
Never get the joke,
Never.
but I would be laughing my ass
So
off.
you'd be laughing, and
Yeah.
then the instructors would be laughing, but all the kids would be like, "Huh?
Yeah.
No idea."
Yeah.
Very funny.
I love it.
I'm still freaking sweating from my workout, man.
Yeah, I had a good one today so far.
I didn't have
Another
enough
one
time to come back to room temperature,
Yeah.
as they say.
Yeah, both doing another Operation Fluff Off, or we're going for another. How many pounds are you gonna go drop? Fat. How much fat are you gonna drop?
I don't actually know, but I'm
Oh.
shooting for like 10 pounds.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing with when we're doing it for like 30 days, normally like your first 5, even 10 sometimes, are like pretty easy to lose.
Yeah.
Because unless you're already like super lean, so I am pretty lean, so it's hard, like it's harder to lose, but you'll get 5 or 10 pounds of just like water. So if you just dial in your diet for like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
most of it's just going to be a lot
Yeah.
of water and like bloating, just flushing out, inflammation coming down. Like that's quick. So
Yeah.
we'll see. 10 pounds is the plan.
Yeah.
But
What did I say? I'm going 8. That's what I want. 8.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm going 8, and more, maybe more.
that'd be good though,
So I
because
wanna
that'd be
go 8.
the lowest you've been since I've known you, probably.
Yep. Well,
Even
not since you. Yeah.
even when I
no,
was
not
like
since you know me.
When I was like 6 or 7 or 8 or whenever I started skating with you, what were you then?
193.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Good shape.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You're always in good shape.
So I'm looking. It's fun. I like doing it.
It's cool, man.
It's just so funny to change a mindset because it's so easy to get back off. Like to how it all creeps in just slowly.
Yeah.
Have a beer with someone, and you have to start not dialing it in, and then all of a sudden you gain 3 pounds. Not that that's the end of the world or anything, but it's easy to do, but it's also easy to do the other way. Like yesterday, I just said because I had a pretty heavy weekend with my brother and stuff, so I just said no eating. So I didn't eat.
Well, it's one of those things too. Like once you do it one time,
Yeah.
then it's a lot easier to go back and do it a second time. So even like the Operation Fluff Off going into, I don't know how it was for you, but I've done this a bunch of times. But the first time going into it, it's like fuck, I got to dial it in for a month. Like maybe that feels like it's a long time, or maybe it feels like, wow, what's the point? I don't really need to do that. But then you do it once and it's like, well, it's not really that crazy. 30 days, it's not.
No, and I actually like it because it's the way I'd rather just eat anyways, because it's clean, it's good, you're not pigging out all the place. If you're just focused on it, then you stay at a good weight all the time.
Yeah,
So
that's cool.
That's what I like.
Yeah, it's
For me,
fun.
but for me, it's like the weekends where I could let it slip is, and I don't enjoy drinking anymore, but I don't mind having a couple. But I never just have. Well, sometimes I have a couple, but it's usually I have more than a couple.
Well, it's like that
stupid.
it's like that with eating too,
Yeah.
though. Like
Yeah, you're
once you have one, it's easy to have more than one.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it's fun to do. I like figuring out, like doing different programs while we lose it, or eating a different way, or trying different things. I just like it's cool to learn about how it works.
Yeah.
But
So, are you reading any books right now?
yeah,
Well,
I am.
because I haven't asked you in a while.
Well, I got a couple on the go. One that I'm reading, I talked to you about it before. It's like a cultural issues book. It's about that. I told you about that guy that I don't agree with anything he says, basically about anything. But I'm reading the book. It's called Stamped from the Beginning, and it's like Stamped from the Beginning.
Okay.
So it's like it's about racism. That's what it's about.
Okay.
So it's just I told you about this guy, and I basically don't agree with. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of things that the guy says in the book that I do agree with, but then he'll take it like one step too far, where it's like I don't agree with what you're saying anymore. Right. So I agreed with the first part of your sentence, but the second part of your sentence, now I don't agree anymore.
Right.
So I'm reading it on purpose just to get like different perspectives on stuff that I'm reading. So that's one. Second one is actually you're reading that Wired to Eat book, which I'm sure you're going to mention, but same author. So Rob Wolf and Diana Rogers. It's called Sacred Cow.
Okay.
And I'm just starting it, and it's about like regenerative agriculture and how to like attack climate issues using regenerative agriculture, and how like the data that people talk about, because everyone always talks about like how raising cows is really bad for the environment and all this stuff. So it's like it's not necessarily a rebuttal to that, but it's kind of just framing it in a different way, telling the other side of the story basically, and how you can do things properly and not like, we don't need everyone to be vegan is what the argument of the book is. Like that's not necessary. We can do things a different way, and it also that doesn't even make sense. So it's kind of it's telling the other side of that story too. So those are two I got going. But man, I have a nice stack on the shelf. Like I got Jordan Peterson's new book ready to go. I got actually, well, I'll leave that one for a later time. Anyways, you go.
Yeah, I've got Wired to Eat, really good. I just wanted to delve into that one, and that's just the evolution of your body, basically, and how your body takes food in. That
is one of the best books I ever read in really getting me starting to get me dialed into food and how food can affect your body. That was the first, because I actually did. He talks about it. He mentions like the 7-day carb test and all that. Have you already read about that? So he mentions like doing like how diabetics, they prick their finger to test their blood sugar or whatever. Yeah. And so that's something he talks about, doing that experiment on yourself to test different foods and how they affect your body. And I actually did it. I remember you were in the gym when I was doing it. Yeah. And it's so cool, man. Like seeing how your specific body reacts to different foods, it was fascinating. That's what really got me attracted to like figuring out the diet part of the world, because it can be so complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I like that one, but then I've been bouncing around because I told you last podcast I just started diving into one of my old books, Romo, and I suggested to Dalton, and I said, Dalton, I'm reading this book, Bill Romanowski. I said, it actually reminds me a lot of you. So he sent it, he got it last night.
Like in what way does it remind you of Crowder? Just like doing whatever it takes kind of thing?
Literally doing whatever it takes, like whatever it takes, and the working out and the eating and figuring out himself and stuff like that. So it was very interesting that way. And he was he ahead of his time in trying to figure stuff out. Amazing. So the other book I'm reading is Wired to Eat. The other book I'm reading, and this is one Dalton suggested to me. He goes, get this one. So I got it and I'm getting really fussy with books because I don't want to just read just to read. I want to get something out of it and like it be important stuff. So he sent me what's my word? A recommendation. He says, read this book. It's great. It's called have a your plan B. How does it go? There's no plan B in your A game, and sounds good. So when I got it, I didn't know who the author was or anything. He gave me the name. Turned out this guy was a football player, played pro football, and he was too small. And so basically he had a goal and he was running towards it. So as I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, it's just a motivational book. It's like, whatever, work hard and blah, 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 things work out. Yeah. But it seemed that way, but it's actually really, really, really good. Really good. So I have Charlie starting it. My wife, I said, honey, pick this up. She started reading. She goes, can I just read this? So we're fighting over the book right now. It's really good. Really good. Awesome. So yeah, I really like it, and there's a lot of stuff in it. It actually ties into what we're talking about today, but we'll go into that after. So anyways, that's a really good recommendation. So it's called "There's No Plan B in Your A Game." Yeah. So those especially for the kids that are just starting, it's a good book.
Yeah, because you want, like, if you're a around the like draft age, 15 or whatever, you don't like reading. Like, no, I didn't. Nobody does, because it's not presented in a way that makes it attractive up to that point. So when you're going to start reading, like, especially as athletes, the best thing that you can read, in my opinion, is just like something that gets you fired up.
Yeah.
Like what gets you going. Yeah. And then, like I've said to you a bunch of times, after you read so many of those, and this is kind of what you're pointing at, it's like, okay, now it's just like repetitive, the same thing. So if you can read as many motivational books as you want, it doesn't tell you what you need to do. So after you get yourself fired up and you realize, okay, like I need to work hard, I need to be committed, I need to do this, uncompromising, all those things. It's like, okay, so now what specific things do I need to do to achieve goal X?
This book? As I was reading it, I'm in the end of chapter 1 into 2 and into 3. I started recalibrating right away. Mm-hmm. It forced me to. It was actually a motivation, but it was actually, okay, yeah, let's go. Yeah. So it kind of had me recalibrate, and I set a couple new goals, new purposes and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm fired up about it. Yeah. Really cool. I like it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So we were talking about, let me start. No, I'm going to start with this. The OHL a week ago decided, so the Ontario Hockey League, and I always say that because there's people that live out west, out east, and all over the place that people listen to our stuff. Yeah. And we get comments and stuff for people. So I just want to be clear on that because I don't want to leave anybody out. Yeah. But the OHL, who didn't play this year, said that their draft is going to be is going to be on June 4th. And tomorrow night, which is May 5th, will be they're going to be doing a draft lottery, which is awesome because no one got to play. So, they're making it fair for everybody, which I think is cool. I was having a conversation with one of the GMs I think it was the Monday last week before they made the announcement, or maybe it was Friday. And we were talking, and my perspective, what I told him, I said, I hope that they do the draft like either right away. So this was May. No, it was the end of April. I hope they do it right away, as soon as they can, or they hold off till right to the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. And I said the reason for that is the scouts have seen players, and they've been doing it for a long time, like all season, just getting as much data as they can. And wow, are they doing a good job? Mm-hmm. Make no mistake of this draft, and I'm sure the NHL is doing the same, but the OHL teams, the GMs and the scouts are doing an incredible job. They know who's who in the zoo right now. They're watching video. They're making phone calls. They're digging deep. They know who the players are. They know what they're like. They're doing a great job. So I was pretty impressed with that. Like, so hats off to them, because it's not just some Mickey Mouse thing going on. Yeah, I heard this guy's good. No, they've been doing work. Yeah, like hard ass. And sorry. No, go ahead. And like, these guys are sitting there, like, they're watching games. They did everything they can. They're talking to everybody they can. They've watched wherever they can, and they're doing their homework. But they're sitting in rooms, man, and they're watching video. Hard to get a player, but these guys are good. Like I always said, I'm not a scout. I know basics and like as far as evaluating people, I'm not sure how they fit into certain teams, certain places. I can find the gems or whatever. But these guys are good. These guys are good. Yeah. They were talking about this one kid, and they said the one guy was saying to me, he goes, "Yeah, he's good, but I think he peaked." And I go, "How do you know that already?" And I would agree. Yeah. And he goes, "You could just kind of tell, like, the maturity of his game and the face, and I've seen him, and I think he peaked." I said, "Wow." I said, I'm probably not going to argue with that. And I've seen him once. Yeah. He goes, "Good guy. He's good though." I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing." Like, anyways, they're good. They're good, man. Yeah. I can't explain how good these are, how well professionally run these organizations are now, especially compared to when I played in the 80s and coached in the 90s. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, awesome. A couple things. When you're talking about just at the end there, how good they are. When you played, it was a lot. People, like, the players were a lot more free in a sense. Like, it's not just all hockey all the time. You need to be the best at every single thing. But as the years progressed and the league developed, you're doing everything you can to get an edge. So what that means is, over time, you're going to have to be better, younger and younger and younger and younger and younger. So then once the NHL started to get young, even the OHL teams, some of them are better, some of them are worse, and you would still see like some of those like 10-1 blowout games, like it was a AAA league still and stuff like that. But now it's still getting younger and younger and younger. So now you're getting 15, 16, like the technology they're even using to get these kids, to watch them, to test them, to make sure their bodies are ready. Like these are kids that their bodies aren't even growing, like done growing yet. Like they're still, they're in the prime of when they're growing, and they're still getting all of this like super detailed, like athletic development coaches and like head of sports science coaches that are influencing the teams and all of this kind of stuff. And it's amazing to watch. But the other thing I was going to say is, especially now because of the kids can't play, there's probably something like the amount of, we've talked about it before, the amount of money that these teams are investing in the kids that they're picking. When you actually do crunch the numbers over time, like the amount of money they're putting into each of these kids, like they need to know they're making, or to the best of their ability, make a good decision on who they pick. And because of right now they can't see the kids play, there's probably certain amount of overcompensating in the amount of research they're doing and the amount of calls they're making and the amount of interviews they're having. They're probably doing all the more, like putting extra effort into that stuff, because they can't just go to a tournament in Toronto and watch everybody. You know? So them dialing in on that, and just from like hearing the conversations you've been having and being around it now for the last few months, it's amazing to watch like the work that they're putting into.
Well, the one that you walked in yesterday when Charlie was having one, he said, you know what, Charlie, like, he nailed this play, the way he plays, where he's at and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, I've seen you play, I think 6 times, and it's been consistent. And he goes, you know, it fits what everyone's been talking about. He goes, but typically in a year I see a 15, because Charlie asked him, he goes, like, do you see anything that I need to get better at? And he says, I think you're bang on with the way you play. He goes, and if I watched you maybe 15 times rather than the 6, I probably could give you maybe a little bit, but he goes, I can't give you enough. But they're doing great. But my point to that is that, like, and Dave Branch that runs the OHL, people like to cut him up and stuff, but boy, he's changed that league for the better. It's so good. Like, he's raised the level of every team. You can't be a hillbilly going into this into this league and just kind of run and gun. You have to be ready. But they're doing a great job. I'm so impressed. And you know, the big debate that we have growing up is college hockey or OHL. You know, which one? You know, college hockey's been good for the OHL because, you know, competition makes your
That's right.
Having a competitor keeps you on your toes. And I think the OHL or the Canadian Hockey League for a long period of time was the only game in town for the most part. And then as the colleges started to really become competitive and good, and maybe some kids had some different choices, I think the OHL or the CHL had to tighten up a little bit, or else they'd lose some of their top prospects.
Oh yeah, well,
and it's awesome. The coaches, most of them have NHL experience, but they're just so thorough, man. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
A big part of that again is just the technology now. So if you're a kid that's like 16 and you, like we've talked about a million times, you have a choice. You can send a video to whoever in friggin' whatever state you want over there to find a school. Yeah. You know, so if what's the Mike's knee there? What state is he from again? Minnesota? Yeah, Minnesota. Like, you can go send a video out to Minnesota, or you can talk to the coach from, or they can get video on you. Yeah. Like, that stuff didn't exist before. No. And then, so now the OHL was incentivized to say, oh, like, we could lose these kids to school. So then think about, now they're giving these kids like a school package that's like thoroughly, they can use it wherever they want. Like, that's because of college hockey was a competitor. That's 100% why that happened. Yeah. Because they're like, we're going to lose these kids because education is an important thing, because most of these kids aren't going to be professional players for their whole life, and they need something. That's right. So, and then they looked at 100%, I know this as well, they looked at some of the programs at the colleges, because the amount of money that some of those top Division I schools have is ridiculous. So when you're looking at the athletic development programs and what those schools have to offer, all the OHL teams, I'm sure, and the other CHL teams are like, oh, like, we need to offer these kids something else, because now that they can see that that's an option, we have to boost our game. Yeah. I know for sure, like you said, like, that was a huge, both of them are an influence on each other. Yeah. For the better, you get that competition, right? Yeah. Well, all I can say is, like, I am impressed, and I was impressed, you know, talking to some of the colleges, talking to Mike Snee with College Hockey Inc. It's incredible. Yeah. The kids have unbelievable opportunities, but we're just talking about the Canadian kids right now and the Canadian organizations. And I'm telling you, man, it's top notch. Yep. It's. I mean, yeah, of course. At the end of the day, it's still going to be hockey, and you're going to get, you know, I'm a really nice person, but at some point I want to win a hockey game, and you go into hockey player snap show. But these guys are good, and Dave Branch has done a really, really, really good job. And I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. He's done a phenomenal job
taking that league and making it professional, like a place where, okay, so for example, when I played, if I had to put my kid in that environment, 1985 to 1989, not sure I want to do that. But now it's like, and I probably would anyways, but now they've made it so professional, so good. I love it. It's fantastic. But anyways, my point of all this stuff was that I was hoping when I was talking to that GM that the draft was sooner than later, or sooner or later.
Right.
Because what was a possibility was, so just to be clear for everybody, so we're in an Ontario-wide lockdown where we're not allowed to basically work, and the kids can't play hockey. So June it ends on May 20th. So what happens is if they had, like, let's say 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get to do the draft, which was one of the plans, maybe June 19th-ish, then it gives you 4 weeks to get out and play hockey again. But what happens, it's just the wild, wild west. Yeah. And the kids haven't been really skating and stuff. So really to evaluate a player or players at a spring tournament or some invite camp or whatever, whatever type of scrimmage, whether there's hitting or no hitting, it's like it's not even real. But you could have some injuries and kids aren't fresh. You're not really watching the true hockey player. Right. They've seen them for a year, maybe even longer. They've watched the guys, and trust me, they know they know who you are, and whether you bring something to the table or not right now. And then, so I was glad that they did it, because now, and that's what I was saying to the GM, I said, now if they do it earlier, then you could kind of wipe your hands of that. It's done. And now you could take the rest of the summer, you can prepare for your camps and just get that out of the way, which I think everybody, including the kids, want to do. And I think it's a good thing. Well, or they went all summer and they had 2 months of, they have some structured games. But the other thing is the wild, wild west is then you get people putting teams together, spring teams together, and it's not like, maybe it's not the kids they want to look at, or you stack. Anyways, it's a whole other issue.
It's the same thing. It turns into spring hockey, right? And spring hockey is not real hockey. That's the problem. So when you have, like, because of what the last year has been, it's just not ideal. Like, right. So the big issue that I see, and I feel bad for some of the kids, is a lot of the kids were really improving, really developing, and then they miss out on a year when maybe they would have had a great year. Yes, but like maybe they wouldn't have. That's the other part. Or maybe they would have got hurt, or maybe whatever. So you can't really play that game. But either way, they didn't get to watch the kids for the last year, and the difference between being 14 and 15 or 15 and 16, like, these are huge. That's a huge difference in terms of your development, how your strength as a man, like how puberty is set in for all these guys. Like, time is the great equalizer. So with every year that you progress from 14 to 15 to 16, like, those are big gaps. Those are big jumps. So like some kids, and it's just a reality, some kids are going to slip through the cracks. Like, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. But you have time to make up the difference, right? Yeah. So if you have, you haven't played in the last year, and then, you get 2 weeks or 3 weeks to go do as many tournaments as possible just to try to get some notice. Well, now you might get hurt. Now you might be running into, like, this weird competitive thing where everyone's so obsessed with playing that people aren't focusing on the right things. Or if they did the draft even later, now you have even longer, where maybe you have 2 months of doing this crap, and now you're not focusing on your off-season training. You're not focusing.
Or then you go to camp and you're just gassed, right, tired.
That's what I'm getting to, right? So once they have, now that they set it, you still have your whole summer. It's like whether you get drafted or you don't get drafted, now. Yeah. And now you still have the full summer to figure out what you're going to do, what's your strategy, what are you working on, and focus on that and come up with a plan to progress through the summer, rather than scrambling for 2 months to try to have a last gasp effort at getting picked by some team possibly. Or
and that goes both ways, whether you're drafted or you're not drafted. Yeah, it's like, I want to know. I want to know so I can move on and re-engage. Yeah, for sure. Right? Yeah, for sure. So anyways, and it is what it is. There's going to be some guys possibly that go in the first round that maybe aren't going to pan out because, maybe they're a little bit, didn't see them enough. And there might be some kids that go in the fifth round that, that kid's, it's like kid that actually can play.
That scout you said saying, I think he peaked. Yeah. There's probably going to be a bunch of those. They peaked in Bantam Major. Yeah. And then
but that's every year anyway.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter. Yeah, so like, guys, this is going to be fine. And this is kind of the topic we're going to be talking about today, is like, what happens if you don't get drafted? Is it over? And before we go into that, I was thinking about something the other day, like, so it kind of goes with the book, having a plan A. Like, there's no plan B. You go for it. But I was saying to you earlier, I said, how many guys have worked for me, or friends that I have that played hockey, that it just seems so simple. I'm going to be a cop. I'm going to be a fireman. Yeah, I'm going to be a police officer because I played on a team. They think that playing hockey has something to do with being a police officer or a firefighter, and I laugh. And they they go for it the first time or twice, and then they give up because they didn't want to do the work. So how many guys, right? You've seen them come in. I'm going to try to get in the fire department, because a lot of them look at it as a fire department. If they get out of the fire hall, well, then they work 2 days a week. That's how it works in this city. It's very similar. Yep. 2 days a week, and they get all this time off, and they sit around in a hall. This is what they're perceiving. They sit around a hall in a uniform with their teammates, more or less, and they think they can crack jokes and make a good living and have a nice life. Meanwhile, they don't realize that pretty much they're the first responder to everything tragic and gross, and I don't want my brain to see that they might be going to an accident and see someone's teeth on the freaking dashboard, or all the worst things. And I have some fireman friends that see the worst of the worst, and it's hard. And you want to be a fireman, you're probably gonna have to be able to fix things and use pumps and all these kind of things. So these guys that go in, I'm going to be a fireman, they're not even good at doing the basic things of tools and stuff. So like, and understanding the water pressure, the heat, you haven't tested that. Yeah. So they don't get the job, and they're like, oh, this sucks. I'm just going to go do something else. Well, you didn't really want it. Yeah. And it's the same with being a police officer. A lot of guys think it's a team. You go out there, you can punch a few guys out here and there, but it's so much more than that. And so people just make a quick decision. And it's like, that's where I'm going with this in hockey, is like a lot of people just think, I hope I get drafted, and I hope it works out. But is it actually plan A for you? Or is it a hope, or is it an actual dream? Is it an actual mission in your life to make this thing work? Yeah. And there's a big difference between this being your purpose or your mission in life, your one focus, or hope it works out.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to being like a character thing too. It doesn't matter what you're looking at, if you want to be a hockey player, or you want to be a police officer, or whatever. And in sports, it's a little different, because there are those guys that are so good that they can still be a dick and get through just because they're that good. But once you get past and they're not all like this, but once you get past number 1, 2, 3 spot on the teams, everyone after that they can't afford to be a dick, because there's somebody else that is just as good as them who isn't a dick. So you might last for a year or a couple of years, but then you're out because nobody cares. Yeah. So that's one of the differences with hockey. But then even like these guys going to the police department and stuff, it's so funny, because people who have like never thought about doing that before, like you said, just pick up and say, hey, I'm going to go do this today.
I'll be a cop now.
Yeah, I'm going to go do that today.
Now. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
I remember you and I like watching some of these guys do it, and they were like getting interviews and like doing all this stuff. I'm like, these guys don't know how to do anything. I do not want to call this guy to come if I have an emergency. No. That's what I would think, like knowing these guys. And of course, they don't get the job because, of course.
Eventually they get.
So one of my friends that I'm thinking of right now, he went to school and he did nursing. And then he went and worked as a nurse, and he didn't like it. But he did like all this travel stuff, had all this volunteer stuff, had all this experience working. And then he was like, I'm going to try to get into the fire department. So then he went and volunteered at a fire hall in Tecumseh here for a while. Yeah. And he plugged away studying. Like I remember one weekend we went to a cottage with just some buddies, like dudes trip, hanging out. This guy was getting up an hour early every morning to do an hour of studying while we were at the cottage, like hanging out.
So he actually wanted to be a fireman.
He's actually doing the work.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, he had all this other stuff lined up. He did volunteering at the fire hall and all this stuff. And then he ended up getting hired with Windsor to be a firefighter now. And that's what he does now. Yeah. And he actually he's like, I actually want to do this. I'm actually going to do the things I need to do. I'm not just going to put a resume together and say that I volunteered at the local hockey school as my volunteering. Like, that's not volunteering, man. Right. You went there to have a good time. It's like, go do something that's actually tough, and that's what the difference is with a lot of those guys. And it's the same thing with hockey. And all these kids that are going through this right now, they're going to see over the next couple of years, it all comes out in the wash, man.
Yeah.
It all comes out in the wash.
100%. So so we're going to talk about, if you don't get drafted, now what? Yep. So I think, in my opinion, the reason why people get, well, not the only reason, but the reason why people, because I get calls all the time with the kids, like, I don't think I'm getting drafted. Like, it's too early to tell anyways. And just because not every team's calling you or no one's calling doesn't mean that you won't. But the thing is I think that, like, in Canada, in Ontario especially, well, probably across Canada, is that we're so focused on the 16-year-old year of playing in major junior hockey that we build it up, and when it's not it doesn't go the way we want, then it's like devastating. Which a lot of that is on the parents, and a lot of that's on the kid as well. But I think the problem with that is the plan that we made for ourselves was too short, right? We made a short-term plan instead of a long-term plan, because there's no way you don't become a hockey player at 16. You become a hockey player in your early 20s, the real you. So if you don't get drafted, it's actually not the end of the world. Although I understand it's like embarrassing maybe, or it doesn't fall the way you want it, but I think in some ways it's good. But just to put a little bit of light on it, it's like coaches don't, because if you got drafted in the first round or you didn't get drafted at all, you can go to the same camp, or if you make the team, which it happens all the time, when a coach is playing a player, he doesn't say, okay, so I need a first and second rounder out there. No, he just needs someone that can play. Yeah. And many, 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 many times, third rounders outplay first rounders, ninth rounders outplay second rounders or first rounders. It happens all the time. Walk-ons on a team outplay other people, and it's like I guess the draft didn't matter that much, but I know as we're going through it, it's devastating. Mm-hmm. And it's okay that it's devastating. I hope it means something to you. But the other thing is like what you have to look at when I'm putting my glass. I got a couple notes here. The coaches don't care what round you're in. Once you get drafted, it's like, okay, cool. Now you got to make the team, and when you're here, we'll give you your ice as it goes. But when people are looking at it, like one of the things that they consider is, like we said earlier, is maybe a player peaked a little bit early, and they can see that. Well, if you peaked and this is all you got, or it's not going to be our best choice. Like we can maybe see someone that's maybe even a little bit less skilled, but I can see in 2-3 years this kid's going to be a hockey player. Maybe he gets taken later, and maybe you don't because you've possibly peaked, right? Someone might get drafted. You might shake your head at some people at a scout, and you might, but the scout might be projecting that player a couple years down the road, not what you are today, right? Because the thing is that when you get drafted at 16, like my son's a 15-year-old. He's only 15. He's still he's just exploding. So if we were to say, okay, he's this is what he is, it's not even close. Yep. It's not even close. Yeah. Like I hope someone says,
"Oh yeah, he'll be way different."
Well, yeah, he just grew. I think I talked to him the other day. I said, "I think he grew again, son. Like he's over 6'1" now, and he's getting wide and stuff." And it's like, well, I hope someone doesn't project and say, "Well, that's all." That he's peaked. This is what he got. I'm like, he's got a lot more. Mm-hmm. Whereas other kids have been, I don't know. They peaked early, and that is all they got. Yeah. So people do see that, and So so a lot of times they're drafting on potential. So they might see your body language and say, I don't like the attitude. I don't like the way that maybe he just seems like it's all about him, and it's like I don't want that on my team. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just that.
Yeah, I remember when I was going through the draft because I didn't get drafted, and it's the biggest thing is just like the ego boost of it. If you get drafted, being able to put out Instagram post or whatever saying,
put the hat on.
I'm pleased to announce I was drafted by whoever. Thanks to everyone who helped me along the way. That is what it's about. So then you can walk around your high school halls and think I got drafted. Yeah. And that is legit the biggest thing about it is just that ego boost. That is what the hardest thing to separate when you're that age. I remember it, man. And I had time to digest the fact that I wasn't going to get drafted going into it. Like I knew that I wasn't going to get drafted, but I knew that that's not, like you said, that's not the end game. So the way that I started to reframe, because it was hard to deal with, like to realize, wow, like at this point, it seems like no one thinks I'm good. That's what the thought is. Like, no, I'm shit. That's what that's what you think about yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Even though it's not true.
It's not true.
To a certain degree, right? You might be a good player and you could be that guy that slipped through the cracks or you developed late or whatever. But the way that I started to reframe it is that those guys that get drafted, that's just the door opening for them. You know, like you still got to walk through the door. So, and it happens all the time, man. Like we went through that episode about the OHL Draft. How many of those guys got their opportunity?
Yep.
Almost all of them, actually. Almost all of them. They got their opportunity, and then in terms of hockey, like I'm sure many of them went on and did good things with their life and all that, but in terms of hockey, they got their opportunity and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Almost all of them, actually.
Yeah.
And that is what the reality is, and that's what you have to try to force into your brain, even while you're going through it, and it's really tough, is that all these kids are getting by getting drafted is the opportunity. They just now have the door open, and you just didn't get your opportunity yet. You still have to go make an opportunity for yourself.
Yeah.
So these guys that got drafted, they made their opportunity. Here it is. They get the door opens a crack, and they still have to push their way through the door. You didn't get yours yet. Maybe you make a junior team, and that'll be your opportunity. Maybe you'll go try out for a OHL team, and that'll be your opportunity. And the other thing I was going to say is, especially in like southwestern Ontario, like from down below Toronto, because we don't have like another junior league, like another feeder league that's really good. Like we have our junior B league and whatever, and that's a good league.
Yep.
But it's not the OJHL, it's not the BCHL, it's not of that caliber. So even if you're like out west, and I'm just like speculating, I don't actually know if this is the case, but if you're going to play in the WHL, if you don't make it, you still have the BCHL that you could go to.
And the BC Junior League.
Yeah, and the BCHL is probably the most highly scouted,
it's a very scouted
junior league outside of the USHL,
yeah.
I would say, for scholarships.
Yeah.
And like there's guys that get drafted to the NHL out of the BCHL.
Yep.
Right. So
well, just to put that in perspective, guys get drafted out of junior B sometimes.
Right.
Some guys get out of high school. So
yeah,
they find you.
Yeah, they find you. And that's and that's the other thing too. Like if you watch the NHL draft, most of the guys that go in the first round, which is all anyone really watches, are going to be from OHL or whatever.
College, Russia.
Yeah, but outside of that, like there's guys coming out of the BCHL, there's guys coming out of high school, there's got these people exist, and there's other options. So I think it's also like a hyper issue where we live in particular, because we don't have that other option in our head where it's like, okay, well I'm going to shoot for that now, or I'm going to make a lateral move. And not that you can't still shoot for the OHL, because you can, but it's not as easy to see that there's more to the story.
Well, here's the thing. So some guys are going to go fly under the radar. It just is what it is. And sometimes you might be a late bloomer, or you peak later. There's a whole bunch of reasons why you may not have been noticed. But this is what I'm saying about your end game shouldn't be your 16-year-old year.
Yeah.
Because if it is, then you're setting yourself up for like major disappointments, and it's just not fair to yourself. There's countless guys that make the National Hockey League or get their school paid for, and they get it at 20. Like countless guys, and I know it's not. You just don't. It's just better. It's nicer to see yourself succeed at 16. Right? Well, it's easier on your life.
But that was me. I was one of those guys, right? Yeah. That's exactly what happened to me. It was I got it later. I got my school paid for later. That's just what happened.
Yeah, but this is what I would say to guys. Like, and I say it to my son, even though I'm pretty confident that he's going to get drafted fairly high. Don't set your sight at 16. Like, what do you want out of this game?
Yep.
Like, what do you want out of this game? Like, so if you don't want to have, like, if you don't have a lofty goal, then you probably shouldn't be that disappointed, right? But if you have a lofty goal, like, and you know, if it's pro, you want to be a pro, I think that's a great goal, because it's the biggest you can get, to be an NHL or whatever. And obviously there's not that many jobs, but when you decide, if that's your plan A and you want to go for it, then when you're 16, it's like, okay, this is a disappointment. This got in the way for now. Okay, like next. You know what I mean? It's not like at 16 and like life's over, because let's be real realistic about this. Most guys that get drafted at 16 aren't playing the Ontario Hockey League anyways.
Yep.
There's only 40 spots a year, and that's 40 aren't necessarily taken.
Yep.
So you're probably not playing at 16 anyway. So what are you going to do about that year? Like if you get drafted in the second round to, like I think I said this before, to London Knights, who always has a deep team, and they say, well, we want you to marinate for a year in Junior B. Would you go there with a bad attitude because you just want to play on the big team? Like ego, like you always talk about, it's ego. It's like, okay, what do I need to do? I need to get better. So if our long-term goal is to play in the National Hockey League at 22 or 23 and get your school paid for, you know, take your goals down a little bit. But if that's the end goal, okay, so I didn't make it at 16, I didn't get drafted. So, okay, so what do you do next year? You play another year of midget? That's not that bad. Do you play Junior B, Tier 2, Junior A, something like that? And if you do, if you get better every year, right? So if I go play midget and I think I should have been drafted, go play like you should have been drafted. And if you're a goal scorer, put the puck in the net. Make plays. Get better at a couple deficiencies. Mm-hmm. If you do that very well, you will get a shot. Yeah. You will. And if it takes you till 18, it's the plan. You go to the plan. I'm going to give myself till 21 years old and see where I am with this, let's say. So 16 to 20 is 4 more years of mucking it out. Yeah. Right? So if you start honing your game for 5-6 years, you will be a better player. And if you have a purpose like that, I want to have that goal. So what happens now is you look back, if you make the NHL or you get a college scholarship to Boston College at 20, you accomplish something, man. Yeah. And you can look back at that one day at 16 and say, who cares? Because it didn't matter. I became a better person even, possibly. Mm. But the point is it's like even running the business, right? If I don't get what I exactly want right now, does that mean my business is done? No, it's just it's not even an obstacle. It's just a thing. It's not your time yet. You got to learn. You got to get better. You're not ready. It's testing you. Because everyone's going to get a shit sandwich at some point. It's coming.
I was just going to say that, man.
Yeah. Like some kids, and listen, kids, dads, moms, for that are listening, there's going to be more disappointed people than happy people in a month. Way more disappointed people. But it's just your first shit sandwich. And my thing is, when I was talking to one of the boys the other day, I said, so you got a shit sandwich. Now what? Do you quit? Why are you playing hockey? What's the purpose? What is your purpose of playing hockey? Did you play hockey to get drafted to the OHL? Or did you play hockey for another reason? And hopefully it's deeper than that. And if it is a deeper reason, then you continue to play for the love of the game.
Yep.
And then you learn the lesson. You got to go into the truth mirror. You got to look at yourself and, hey, have a pity party. 100%. 100%. Poor me. But you got to get out of that. You got to look in the mirror and say, okay, there's a reason that 20 teams, 15, they had 15 chances to look at me. They didn't take me. Or maybe you got taken really, really late. Way later than you thought. There's a reason. What is the reason? And you have to be truthful, because if you don't look in that mirror and you actually answer the question truthfully, you have nothing to fix. If you can't fix it, it's always going to be broken. You're not going to get to where you need to go. Yep. So it's really that simple, but you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to say, okay, I have to fix this and get to work, because you still have a long way to go.
Yeah. Well, the issue with especially when you're talking about parents, we've talked about a million times, so I'm not going to like rehash it, but the parents setting their kids up for failure because they're not being honest about the situation, whether that's verbally or they're just ignoring it and not saying anything about it. Either way,
lying by omission.
Yeah, exactly. Their kids
still lying.
Their kids aren't getting ready to deal with the shit sandwich. So that's the first part. Is if you coming into this, if you're not going to be a super 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 high pick, then you need to understand you might not get what you're expecting. Yeah. And the funny thing about the draft is, I remember, I'll give it like a little my story. So I didn't get drafted. I went and played my midget major year, AAA. I got cut from every junior team in the area, all the junior B teams. Late birthday. I didn't want to play junior C because I didn't like the development process. So I went back and I played midget major, and that ended up being the best thing I could have done, because I had an absolutely unreal year. I was probably the best player in our league. And then halfway through the year, I got signed to a junior B team. And then by the end of that year, I'm playing junior B again. So now I'm playing junior B when I was just devastated 3 months earlier because I didn't make a junior team and I didn't get drafted. Now I'm playing junior, getting called up. And guess who I'm playing against? All those guys that got drafted. Yeah. They're all in the same league. Yeah. Now we're all together again. Yeah. And then exactly what, more times than not, from what I could tell, and because I ended up getting to know a lot of these players, that's exactly what they did. They got drafted. They didn't make it. They had a shit attitude because they're prima donna drafted 5th round, and they think that they should be playing with the big boys. Yeah. And they came down and they played poorly in junior B. They didn't even play better in junior B. Yeah. So not only did they not make the OHL, now they're not even hanging in there in junior B, and that's what happens. Is a lot of those guys, they just fizzle off. They end up being career junior B guys, or worse, they'll even get cut from junior B, or they'll get traded around or whatever and end up in junior C or quit hockey or whatever. That happened way more times than it didn't happen. And Absolutely. That's exactly the problem that a lot of these OHL guys could run into, because they didn't get their shit sandwich yet. So you don't get drafted, there's your shit sandwich. You got to deal with it. You got to figure it out. And then you go up to start playing your next year, the following year after your draft. And then that's when all those kids that got drafted get their shit sandwich, because they don't get to play. Yeah. Or they're getting healthy scratched all the time, or they didn't make the team and got sent down. Yeah. And now they have to deal with the same shit that you just dealt with. Yeah. Now, I got drafted, but I'm still not good enough to play. And now I'm playing against this kid I played against last year in AAA. We're in the same league now. That's exactly what happened. And then slowly you're the guy that just keeps working and keeps working and keeps working, and you keep chipping away. And all those guys that thought they were awesome because they got drafted just keep going down and down and down because they got a shit attitude. They're not working on the things that they should be working on. They're not getting better. And then they just fizzle out. And that's exactly what happened. And that happens all the time. Yeah. All the time.
Well, the silver lining in all this stuff is that the couple scouts I was just talking to the last couple of days is I suggested to them, I said, like, if obviously because I got some, they know, they've asked me about some players. And I said, if there's anybody you need that I can help you with, let me know. I'll help you. And they said, well, I'll tell you what, in this draft, you know, the 05s are actually kind of fortunate. The 05 age group are kind of fortunate because they know that there's going to be some gems out there.
This is a great point. Yeah.
And he said this will be the major midget junior B, like wherever these 05s are playing next year, is going to be heavily, heavily, heavily scouted. So if you go into this draft, and it will anyways, like I know people, you know, people outside of hockey or that don't really understand that people are looking for the best players. A lot of the times they think, well, it's over. They're not really looking. And no, they are. They're looking for the best player all the time. And but anyways, the 05s that are going to play at if they don't get drafted, they will be scouted heavily. Yeah. So if you can put the bootstraps on for one more year, well, no, I want the term to be longer, but you just almost forget about this year. You're going to have a really good opportunity to get to a camp and prove to yourself. Yeah. And if you think you're better, right? If you think that you should have been a 3rd round pick or a 5th round pick or whatever it is, you've got a year to go do it. Go get it. Mm-hmm. Go get it. Show them, because they're waiting. They want someone every team wants someone to come in and knock people off their pedestals. That's hockey. Yep. Everybody's there to steal a job. That's what it is. Yep. Stealing jobs. Right? And so guys, please don't stop. Yeah, if you believe in yourself, the first thing is you do have to believe in yourself. Yeah. Right? You have to sit there and say, I'm going to outwork you. Period. I'm actually going to outwork you. I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to do what I thought I worked hard. I'm going to do even more. Yeah. I will outwork you and I will have my chance.
Well, one of the funny comments that we were talking to Mike Snee, the NCAA guy from college hockey, and he was talking about, because he talks about in the context of the NCAA and for kids in Canada. I remember the question you were asking him was, if you're in Canada, like, what if you're playing in a league that, you know, isn't known to be heavily scouted or whatever the case? And all he said was, like, he was kind of laughing when he said, he's like, it's really hard to hide if you're a really good player. Yep. And that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
The other thing that he said was, Andy, he asked me about Charlie. And I said, I don't know, we're having a conversation. I said, he loves the OHL and he's thinking about a couple schools, like, seriously. And I said, it's just really tough. He goes, Andy, if you lived across the street from me, he goes, this wouldn't even be a conversation. He goes, the kids over here do not even think. They don't even make these decisions until they're 18. Yep. Which is a nice option. Right. It's just not the way it is necessarily in Canada. Mm-hmm. But so we got the kids here, 15, 16 years old, and they're being devastated, but they have no reason to be devastated. And so here's another thing, guys. If you think we're just trying to put a little bit of velvet on the sledgehammer, trying to make you feel good, keep working hard. No, this is the truth. Mike over there showed us the stats of the Canadian kids that get scholarships, you know, because people like to throw out bullshit. Yeah. They don't give scholarships to Canadians as much anymore. Well, they do. Yeah, they do. They're just a heck of a lot more Americans now. But they do. Mike Snee and the teams are looking for the best player. They have kids from Finland and Russia and Sweden going to the colleges.
Let me throw the stat out. I want to throw the stat out, and then you can keep going. Yeah. He said that in the NCAA, Ontario in particular has the most kids that are born in Ontario has the most number of players playing NCAA hockey than any state in the States other than Minnesota. Minnesota is the only state that has more players than Ontario.
Right. That's right.
So that just like that bump. And then the other point you're making, like, think about that. They don't even think about this till they're 18, till they're done high school. Right. They don't even have to think about any of this. Right. So sorry, I just wanted to throw that in.
That's good. So this is my whole point, is that if your long-term plan is to have your school paid for, or your long-term plan is to play in the NHL, this is plan A, 16 is nothing. Yep. You have so you take your midget year, and if you're a point getter, go get your points. Go and refine your game so that at 17 and 18, they can't deny you. If you're putting up your points, or if you're spectacular at what you do, you will not be denied. There's someone watching. They want the best players. And people, listen, I've heard people talk, oh, this kid's supposed to be a good player. He's got like 5 points a game. And you hear someone say, yeah, what league is it? Well, it's a shit league. Well, okay, listen, I'm going to tell you something. I don't care how shitty a league is. If someone is getting the points or dominating any league, they're pretty good at something. So
someone's going to give you a chance.
100%. Yeah. So you could be playing in the worst junior C league in the world. If you're dominating that league, someone's taking notice. Yeah. And it might not be, North Dakota that offers a scholarship, but there could be something else.
Yep.
And it's available. So, and then you dominate there again. You keep proving yourself. So, I'm really adamant on that because I've seen so many times where people fail. And this, I'll just go back to my life when I played. Didn't have the maturity to actually understand this stuff. I always worked hard and always gave myself a fighting chance. But like the deep down, didn't have the guidance to even just suggest that to me.
Yeah.
I really wish I had the maturity because you just keep fighting.
Yeah.
If this is actually what you want, like if this is actually plan A, then go for it. Like go for it. And if you need to give yourself a timeline at 22 or 21, that's fine.
Yep.
But at least you gave it everything you got because life does move on. But and then the side note is there's so many side benefits of learning the lessons of never giving up and working hard and doing things because it translates the way you live your life. All that stuff translates into being an excellent employee, business owner, just translate into life. You make better decisions.
Okay, well because I want to touch on that too, but before we get into that, just sticking with from a hockey perspective too, I don't think the other angle I wanted to take was I don't think anyone will argue that one of the most important things to whether or not you're playing well is your like confidence. Like, do I feel confident on the ice? And the only way you get that is by playing.
Yeah.
You need to be playing. So one of the things that a lot of kids will say, even in AAA, like if they're a defenseman and there's a guy that plays more than them, or they're getting taken off while this other guy keeps getting put on, that starts to get in your head. That's hard to handle because you're not the go-to guy. You don't feel like you're the go-to guy anymore.
Okay.
And so that's something that will affect in your own head your confidence playing the game. Okay, so now if we fast forward that and think about it in terms of the draft, you get drafted, you go on this team, and now you're getting healthy scratched. Now you're playing fourth line minutes. Now you're playing whatever. Or even you play on a junior B team and you're playing third or fourth line. You're not getting your second power play instead of first. You're not the go-to guy because they got a 20-year-old captain that's the best and they're going to give him all the opportunity because they want to win. Or you don't get drafted and then you do what I did. You go and play midget major. And now guess what? All those two guys that were better than you in draft year or their coach liked better than you, they're gone now.
Yeah.
And now you're the go-to guy. And even though it's midget major, you're playing all the big minutes, all the top situations. And even if it's not the best in terms of the competition, you get to play all the time.
That's right.
And that's the biggest difference maker for so many people.
You get better by playing.
Yeah, you have to play. Yep. So when you're thinking about things in terms of that too, like again, this is under the assumption that your goal is not just to play junior hockey or not just to play in the OHL. If you want to be a player, you have to play. And that's what's funny. You see, like, even in the States too, like these kids come out of high school, they're playing high school hockey. High school hockey, I mean, in the States, it's a lot better than high school hockey in Canada, but it's not the USHL. It's not the NHL. No, it's not the BCHL. It's not even close to that level of competition. No. And these kids are dominating in grade 12. And then they get an opportunity to go play for a school somewhere.
It's funny. I was listening to Ian Pulver, sports agent.
Yeah.
He's got a podcast called Storytellers. Mm-hmm. And he had Brian Lawton on the other day. And he was the third guy from, he was a first overall pick in the NHL from some high school in Minnesota. So he was talking about it. I was like, it's amazing. He went from playing high school with kids that are 15, 16, 17, and he was just turning 18. To getting drafted first overall, and he was stepped into a National Hockey League game. I mean, wow.
Yeah. When was he drafted?
That would have been 80, let's say 83, 82, 84, something like that. Like the 80s?
Yeah.
But yeah, imagine that. Wow.
Well, and I don't want to, like you were saying, we're not just trying to like fancy this up and put velvet on a sledgehammer because it's like it's more likely you're going to get a good opportunity coming out of a better league. Like that's definitely true. But there's so many stories. It's not that much more likely that you're going to get an opportunity from one of those leagues than from a different league. Like there's so many avenues. There's so many players coming from all different avenues to get wherever you go. And that for sure is true. So just because I honestly think for something like the OHL, because in the news and stuff, they only focus on those top guys like we talk about. They only focus on those 1%ers. So what's in the minds of all these 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds getting drafted is I'm going to get drafted high. I'm going to play and have 2 really good years because I'm going to be a top player, and then I'm going to go right to the NHL.
Right.
And it's that short-term thinking. It's
Short-term
you think you're going to do this in 2 steps. Yeah. That is almost impossible. Almost no one does that.
Shit sandwich is coming.
Yeah, almost no one does that. So if you think that that's what's going to happen, just you already should know that's not happening.
Yeah.
That is not happening, because if it was happening, then when you were 14, everyone would have already known that was happening.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be having this conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
So it's not happening. So you need to start to come up with a strategy of like, what's another path that I can get to where I want to go? And there's so many.
Yeah.
And then you start to work on it. You start to focus on those things that we were talking about.
Well, and the thing is do you want to be the talented kid? If you want to be the talented kid that got drafted fairly high, that has enough talent to play in the league, the OHL, and has enough talent to get drafted in the NHL, and enough talent without like overdoing the work to get to the American League and compete with or against a kid that grinded and played an extra year of midget or 2 or junior B or tier 2 for a year or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And had to practice real hard and had to fight and scratch every second of the way to get to where you guys are at the same point.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not better than this guy, your teammates, or you're competing against each other. I know who I'm going to take my money, put my money on. It won't be the talent.
Mm-hmm.
It will not be the talent. It's going to be the guy that he's just used to the fight. I like that guy.
Yeah.
Talent, what's the term? It's talent. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
And grind and have some shit sandwich. There's nothing you can do to this guy.
Well, that's the when you call somebody a gamer, that's what I like too. There's 2 ways to think about that. That really skilled guy that always delivers under pressure. But the other thing is those guys who, when the game gets tough, they get tough.
Oh yeah.
And those are those kind of guys. Like when the game gets tough, those guys can step up and they deliver when there's pressure. So you get that guy that's super skilled, but when they got to go in the corner with the guy that's tough, they fade away.
Well, here's one. Josh Lee, I just thought about it because Ian Pulver is one of his clients, I believe. Yeah, he is. So we were having dinner one night, and he was talking to me about Josh Levo. So at the time, he was playing with. He got drafted to the Leafs, just drafted. But Ian was telling me the story how, and I might be off a little bit, but
get the point.
I got the story. It was 6 years ago, guys. But Benny goes, because he was talking to a couple of my kids that I was training, and he goes, Josh Levo, guys. He goes, he wasn't drafted, and one of Ian's guys was watching a tier 2 junior A game, and he said, I kind of like that guy, and came back again, and he goes, I kind of like that guy. Seen him a couple of times, and he called Jeff Bukaboom, who was an assistant coach with the Sudbury Wolves at the time. He goes, you might want to take a look at this guy. I like him. He's got some jam. He's got some stuff. Not drafted. So Bukaboom sees him and goes, yeah, we like him. And I don't know if he got drafted that year or if he got invited. Nonetheless, he ended up getting to Sudbury and making the Sudbury Wolves and had a really good junior career. To make the story even more interesting, he came from a family of nothing. And I think I might have even said this before. So he scored some goals, missing a tooth. He got drafted to the Leafs, and he lived, I think, like just north of Barrie, which is an hour or so from Toronto. And he would get into the car in the morning. No one knew. He would get a ride to a construction site with his buddy in Barrie or something like that, take his car to the MasterCard Center in Toronto, sleep for an hour or 2, and then wake up and go work out because he didn't have his own membership, but whatever, and he was just trying to get there. Then he'd take the thing back, go back. No one knew. Do you want to play against that guy?
Yeah.
And he said, so he didn't get drafted. He got overlooked. He worked hard. And where is he now? He's still playing in the NHL. He's playing for Vancouver now. Did really well in Toronto, making $1 million a year, just under maybe. Doesn't matter. Living a dream all through hard work. It happens, and it happens a heck of a lot more than people think.
Yeah, and it's not to say that hard work is just enough, because a lot of times it's not.
Saying it happens.
But it's hard work mixed with like being intelligent about what you need to work. Like you need to bring, we've said this so many times, like you need to bring something that's going to separate you from the other kids, right? So if you're really fast and you didn't get drafted and you're trying to find a way, like you don't need to work on your speed more. Like you need to find something else that's going to, so maybe it's that jam. Maybe it's that you'll go crack a guy or something like that. Something that you're going to bring to the team, because now in this circumstance, if you, like, let's say you want to get to the OHL, you have to go compete against guys they drafted.
Yeah.
So they have the bias towards the kids that have been drafted already because they already picked them. So you need to bring something that they can't afford to not have.
Yeah.
So after you get your shit sandwich and you have to deal with the fact that, I didn't get drafted, I need to do something else. Then, like I'm sure this guy did, I need to play a way that won't be ignored. Like I need to play in some way where someone will notice I need to have that on my team. Because when you're watching games, like what are these teams missing? Like where could I fit in this team? Like where could I fit in this lineup? What could I do that these kids aren't doing? And then you start to put a strategy together for yourself on how you can attack that, plus the work ethic.
Yeah.
So the work ethic plus some intelligence about what you can do to get yourself where you want to go.
Yeah. Hockey's a great game, and I could tell you that guy just loved hockey.
Yeah.
There's a ton of these guys, a ton. So anyways, I want to go through these are, but I want to get real here. So you don't get drafted. I want to talk about a couple of the negatives that you have that you go through. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they're negative. It's just it is what it is. But I'm going to probably say it a little harsher than your mom and dad will.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel like shit, and because nobody noticed me. And that's what goes through your head. No, I worked that hard and no one noticed me. Get over it.
Mm-hmm.
Get over it. Get noticed if you really want this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have a pity party, like why not me and all that stuff. Yes, and I said that earlier. You are going to have a pity party, like everyone does, because you would like it to be easier, and you would like it just to go your way. But you know what? Why not me? Well, why you? That's the question asked. Why you? There's a lot of reasons why not you, but why you? We make yourself so undeniable, and learn from that. Like figure out what is it? What can it be that it is not? Why not me anymore? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What did I put there? It was when you start getting into that pity party, your mindset becomes counterproductive, right? Like I was saying that to one of the kids I was talking to the other day. It's like mental toughness. So if you get drafted, or even thinking about the draft, right? Like we're in a situation now, we're in the middle. Like you can start saying, I haven't played for a year, I just want to play. And you start looking too far ahead, too far behind, then you actually become counterproductive and you're worrying about stuff that you can't control. And that's what mental toughness is. 101 is control what you can, do what you can right now. So if you don't get drafted, you keep looking at the past, you're just going to drag you down. And if you look too far in the future, if you're going to look in the future, start talking about where, that plan that you have, what goal do you have, and start working towards it, like actually do something towards it. You have anything to add?
Well, just the thing with the pity party is, like you said, you're going to feel it no matter what. Like even us saying, hey, don't let yourself get all, sucked into your own brain and negativity and all that. Like, but you're going to do it. So you can even give yourself that, like let yourself feel it for a week or whatever and be upset, and that's fine. But in the back of your mind, know okay, let's come up with an actual strategy or an actual solution to the problem here instead of just spinning in it until you're no longer able to perform. Because like I was saying with the junior guys that come out of they get drafted and then they end up in junior B and they do that. They get in their negative mentality about everything and, I got drafted, I should be playing for the big guys. I'm too good to be playing in this league, blah, blah, blah. And they do it for like a whole year.
Yeah.
And then they can never recover because now not only are they a year older than they were, and now they have to go against all the new kids that just got drafted. They still have to go against all the old guys that were there before, and then you have to go up and compete with them. And if you spent a full year not developing because you have a bad attitude or you're sucked into a negative mentality,
it's a bad routine.
That's right. So give yourself your little leeway of having, a week of feeling like everything, like the world is ending and whatever. If you want, that's fine. But then you have to get back to work now.
Yeah.
It's the same as if you get drafted. Give yourself a week of being on your high horse, fine. But then you have to get back to work now. You can't afford to just cruise. Now's not the time to cruise because, like you said, you start playing. It's important when you're 20, 21. It's not important when you're 16. Like you're just starting. Like you're at the beginning of the road, whether you get drafted or don't, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
So, like you were saying, pity party. Let yourself have it, I guess, for a bit. But then,
well, like you said, even on the successful side, like I look at it in my business. I had some great success in my first 5 years.
Yep.
Great. Excuse me one sec. If I continued to just do that, my business would be nowhere. And I always was smart enough to try to be 5 years ahead, of at least myself.
Yeah.
But what happened is because I was always never satisfied and always wanted to have better results, I kept thinking and kept looking and trying to educate myself to get better. and that's what you have to do. It doesn't. So this is like hockey, obviously.
Well, there's no
difference in life.
But there's like a saying. There's no standing. If you're standing still, you're going backwards or whatever. It's like something like that, right? You have to be going.
One for you. If you're not busy growing, you're busy dying.
That's a good saying too.
The only evidence of life is growth.
Yeah.
If you're not busy being born, you're busy dying. Same thing as the one before. It was a couple different, but it's the truth.
Well, it's so
growth,
hard, whether it's
you're dying.
Whether it's a business thing or a hockey thing, like you have to go so hard just to stay competitive, like just to stay relevant and stay in the same spot. You have to be going as hard as 100%. You can. And like Dalton's a guy that'll tell you that he had to go as hard as he could at all times just to stay in the same place, not to do better, not to get more, just to get what he was getting and to keep getting it. That was it, you know? And that's what it's like. So if you're going to stand still for too long because you're upset, you're going to be done before you even started. And you're just starting. So like, what a shame, you know, you're at the very beginning. 100%. So don't stand still for a year and not make any progress, because then you're definitely done. Yeah. You know?
100%. Yeah. Like you feel like your opportunities are gone. Okay. They're not. They're just starting.
Not even close to gone.
They're just starting. Close. It's a test for you. Do you want this thing or not? It's just the truth. Compare yourself to others, right? That's what you do. It's like, I'm better than him. I should have got that. You just don't understand. Someone saw something in that person, and they didn't see it in you. So go put that together. You might feel like you got a much tougher hand now that has been dealt to you. So what? It's okay if it's tough. It's going to be tough anyways. You might as well have it now. And I know these are the negatives, but it is what it is. It's if you want something, it's not going to be easy anyway. So you got to figure out a way to get through it. Your ego's hurt. Yeah, everyone's ego's hurt.
Yep.
Guy that went. Well, I don't know what I did here. The guy that went second overall, his ego was hurt because he thought he would go first. The guy that went in the second round thought he should go in the first round. It is what it is. Everyone's got a hurt ego. If someone took someone before you, they like you more.
Yep.
Right? Where do I go from here? Right? Is it over? No, it's not, guys. And I know these sound like real simple questions. Like they might even sound stupid, but this is what people think. I mean, I see parents. They lose it. Right? I invested all this money, you know, because they thought of something else, but there's more to it than just playing and making it. Yep. You know, where do I go from here? A lot of the kids contemplate quitting, and we kind of alluded to that. Yep. Because they think that they put everything into it, and it's going to enter your mind several times, not just if you don't get drafted. Mm-hmm. Because, like we said, we should call this one a shit sandwich, because that's what it is. You're going to have them. And when the going gets tough, that's what a lot of people do. They contemplate quitting.
Yep.
And if you love this game, you're going to go through it, and that's why you're going to play. And that's what's going to get you through it. You're going to say something?
Well, is that the end of your negatives list? Because I got to wrap up on the negative part of it. But
go ahead. No, you wrap it up. That's good. Okay. I mean, my point is made.
You get the point.
I don't have to beat a dead horse.
So with all this negative stuff, the first thing I was going to say is you're talking about like all these negatives, like what now? I'm no good. You think you're shit and all this, or you have something to prove. You have so much more work to do. There's no more opportunities. Like all these negative things. And one of the things that I found helpful for me was the way you have a choice of how you think about things.
Yeah.
So you can think about things that. Oh, there's the lights.
You have to get up. Beauty.
Nice. So there's things that are going to be negative, but you can choose whether or not to think of them as negative. So one of those things that you can do is, if it's something where like, oh, now I lost these opportunities, or I have to do so much more work, or I have to prove myself even more, or whatever, like you can own that as a person. Like you can own that, and you can be like, I'm the guy that's going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to be the guy that does all this extra work. I'm going to be the guy that does this, that, the other thing. And you can reframe it in your mind, which is hard to do. It's not like it's an easy thing to do, but reframe it to motivate yourself to be like, okay, like these guys, it's that, you know, that cliche, like I'm going to show you kind of thing, you know, and that's something that's actually useful. It's not just a cliche. Like there's reasons that they make stories like that. And when you watch those underdog stories, there's a reason it fires you up. There's a reason when you watch Rocky, you get fired up. Like there's a reason when you watch if anyone's ever seen Never Back Down, is an old fighting movie. There's a reason you get fired up watching that, because everyone likes the underdog guy. And so you can use that. If you feel like you're an underdog guy, you can use that and try to be the story guy that does that. That's the one thing. And then the other thing you said right at the end was kids thinking, oh, like being upset because I put everything into this and I have no payoff.
So you think.
So, and that's exactly my point, right? Yeah. So now you get to ask yourself the question, you get to play the honesty game. And the honesty game is, okay, I think that I put everything into it. Maybe you actually think that. But did you actually put everything into it? What did you do? What didn't you do? And now let's actually survey the land here and see what is the reality of the situation. Did I do as much as this guy? Did I do as much as that guy? Are there things that I know I should have done that I could have done that I didn't do? And if you're going to be, and that, again, that takes the honesty thing, takes the self-awareness, takes the honesty, because there's a lot of pretenders, man. There's a lot of pretenders out there. Yeah. And we see it every day. And that's, I talk about a lot. I know you talk about a lot. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is the guys that pretend. My dad used to say that to me all the time, man. And that's just grilled into my head. He would always say to me, don't pretend. If you're going to practice, go practice. If you want to be good at this thing, go be good at it. Don't just say you're going to be doing it. Don't walk, or don't just talk the talk. Like, you actually have to go and do the work and do the stuff that you're saying. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that don't do that, man. They show up to their workout and act like they're working hard. Yeah. But then they go home and they eat like an asshole for the rest of the night, or they play video games till 4 a.m. and don't sleep, or they do all the wrong things, but they're talking like they mean it. You know. And now is the time you get your, like you said, you get your shit sandwich. Now you got to evaluate. Did I actually put everything into it or no?
There's a funny, so as you're talking to this, I thought you were going somewhere. You didn't? No. I thought you were going to hit something.
Take it there.
So, really funny. Like I said, I always tell people, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not the dumbest either. Not bad, eh?
Not bad. Not bad.
For some reason, I had this attitude growing up, probably because life was never rosy and cushy and beautiful all the time. I had some stuff.
A couple shit sandwiches.
Shit sandwiches along the way. Lots. Yeah. So I learned that it might have been just a defense mechanism. So you're going to say you're copying something. No, I'm not. When shit would happen to me, I actually embraced it because I knew it was just what you had to do. Right? So funny enough, so people would say something to me. They'd say, like, whatever, it's raining out. And I'd say, that's great. And they'd look at me and I'd go, no, it's great. It's fucking awesome. Yeah. Right? And I couldn't articulate it well, but I always knew there was a reason why it was great. And I would make it great. So not too many years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, as I started reading Navy SEAL, like the process of being a Navy SEAL, what the battle's all about, the leadership and all that stuff, I stumbled across a feller by the name of Jocko Willink, right? And it's funny because I think we've talked about this several times. A lot of people watch like the when people do something hard like that, like the BUDS training or the military training. I'm not saying I can do that, but when people do crazy things or they have a different attitude like that, a lot of people look and they're entertained by it. They go, wow, that's amazing. And then, to me, it's like, no. Like, we talked about it the other day, how like there's people posting on, like, Jocko and David Goggins. They post every time they work out and stuff. And it's like, people are like, wow, he gets up at 4:30 in the morning and wow, he works out every day. Look, he posts his pictures. And we were laughing because, that's what we do too. We just don't post pictures.
Yeah, that's what you do.
And I'm not saying I understand the reason that they're doing it. He motivates people, but we do that. It's not out of the ordinary. Yeah. Right? We do hard things very often. Not bragging, just saying.
Well, and so not taking away from them doing it. It's just, we're just pointing out like it's a normal thing. It's right. not a crazy elite thing. Yeah.
It's just what you do. Yeah. I think. And anyways, I wasn't getting on that kick. I was getting on the kick that, well, so bottom line is there's a certain mentality of people that win in life. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. There's a certain mentality. Yeah. You don't get in awe that someone did something what you seem is crazy, like a triathlon. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. If someone challenged us to do a triathlon, we would probably do it. Yeah, we would. Yeah, I do it. Like, who cares? Yeah, I've never done one before. Well, remember the day you watched me do 500 burpees on my 50th birthday in a row. Yeah. You're looking at me going, that's crazy, but not really. Yeah. But it was.
Cool, like, hey, cool, dude. Like, that's what, that's
the reaction. Like, there was no accolades.
That's a lot of burpees, but cool, dude.
Yeah. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, whatever. Good for you, right? Yeah. Okay, so anyways, my point was Jocko came out with this thing called Good, and everyone should go and look that up. It's Jocko Willink, Good. Yeah. And he just talks about when bad things happen to you, say good. He goes, because he had one of his subordinates that worked for him, and he asked him a question. He goes, I already know what you're going to tell me. You're going to say good. And he goes, I mean it. He goes, and you think about it. He goes, if your business is failing, right? Like, or you don't get drafted, good. Well, how can that be good?
Yeah.
Well, your business is failing. What does that mean? That means you might have to be a little bit stronger at your marketing. It might mean you have to spend a few hours to tighten it up. And when you do, your business will be stronger. Yep. If you don't get drafted, good. Well, what do you mean? There's nothing good about that. No, there's a lot of good about that. Right. That means you get back to the honesty mirror. You look at yourself and you say, okay, I'm going to do that. And when you get through those things, it is good because you're better at the end.
Oh,
right?
Man, yeah.
You're too short. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. You're too short to play hockey. You're not big enough. Good. I'll show you. I'm going to show you what a small guy can do. I'm going to knock down the 6'3" guy 8 times in a row. Yeah. Right? I'm going to work harder. I'm going to make it. And that is good. So on the flip side of everything that's shit in your life, look at what is actually good. And I know, like I said, it sounds like, oh, you're copying. No, I'm not. I've done that all my life. And it's actually how we look at things. And that's how you have to do it. Because if you don't have that actual attitude of, you got punched out, whatever it is, good, you learn from it and move on, you're not making it.
Well, it's funny that you said that. I can't believe I didn't think about that while I was talking, which is funny because
tell you, man, you need me.
Yeah, we're talking about that because I was talking about like the reframing, and that's what it is. Because what he says in that video, which, man, if you haven't seen that, you want to talk about getting fired up. Like, I'm not a guy that really gets fired up about like motivational things anymore, but that still fires me up. Like when I listen to that, it's like about a 2-minute clip. Jocko Willink, good. And
the audio versions, I like it better.
Well, the YouTube, there's a YouTube version where there's like some animation in it, which is really cool. But anyways, when he's talking about it, what he says when he's explaining it is, whenever there's something bad that goes on, there's always some good that could come from it, and it's up to you to make that good come from it.
Yes.
And the only way you're going to do that is by focusing on the good thing. So, like you said, you don't get drafted, good. You have more time to get better, or you have more opportunities. You have more avenues. You're not pinned to one team now. There's something.
5 good things.
There's always something good you can find. So by you choosing to focus on that, you're giving yourself the best chance to grow and learn and progress from that thing that you think is bad or negative or whatever. So,
and by the way, if you get drafted first overall, good.
Yeah, there's always
just have the right attitude.
Yeah, there's always something good that you can focus on, or there's something bad that you can focus on, and it's up to you to focus on which side of it you want to go. And the thing too is, even if you focus on the good, and you, from your perception, you think that nothing better is happening from you focusing on the good things. Like, let's say it's still shit, even though you're trying to focus on the good things, you're no worse off doing that. You're either going to be the same or better off. But if you focus on the bad, and you stew on like those negative things, then you're definitely going to be worse off. You will 100% be worse off in your life if you're always focusing on the negative things. For sure. I don't think there's anyone that would argue that. So worst case scenario, you'll be the same, but most likely you'll be better off if you focus on the good parts of whatever it is you can take from it, which again, it's easy to say, harder to do, but
this is just experience talking now. I get to pull out a whole bunch of things, and I think we're going to end. I don't want to actually talk about the positives anymore about this, because the positive is good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't need to go through my notes or anything, because actually that's the lesson. Yeah. Is whatever bad happens to you, it's like, good, let's figure it out. Yeah. And I've said this before. I talk about a little bit of experience here compared to this young guy. Yeah. I'm being honest with you. I've every single time that I've gone through my worst of the worst of the worst of life, and I battled through, it's always turned out to be 10 times better. Yeah. Every single time. Mm-hmm. It's just it is what it is, because there's so much growth in facing adversity. And just like a simple thing like we talked about in January or December or whatever, I brought it up last time about we went on our first Operation Fluff Off, and you and I had that conversation, and I was like being a little baby. No, I wasn't being a baby. I was just being...
You're doing the normal thing.
Well, I wouldn't even say doing the normal thing, because I try.
Yeah.
And I was just in a rut, a little wee bit of, like saying my metabolism, I feel like it's slowing down, and you called bullshit. So I could have cried. But I took the advice, like your advice, 26-year-old guy, and you called bullshit, and you said, I think if you did this, and we got serious about it. And I said, okay, I'll give it a go. And I learned. I just put my feet in motion and I learned. And you know what? I'm way better off for it because I didn't make it. That's an excuse that I got rid of, and I'm never going to believe that excuse again. You know, it's like there's a saying that diamonds are precious, and you probably know how you make a diamond because you're a goddamn scientist. But diamonds are made because of the pressure, intense heat, and the pressure that they come under. They're not beautiful and shiny and worth something because they're just sitting there. A diamond is actually a piece of coal. I think that's just bullshit. I think it's not. I read something about it. Maybe it's not coal, but it's just a rock.
Yeah, it's rock compressed. Yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe the guy that made the nice story about what a diamond is, they said it was a coal to make it nice. But anyways, a piece of rock under intense heat and pressure for a long period of time. And when that's pulled out and polished, you got the most valuable piece of jewelry,
I guess.
Stone in the world that people kill over, and that's a metaphor for life.
Well, it's the hardest thing. It's like only diamond cuts diamond.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
So that's another cool way to look at it.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. Yeah. Diamond cuts diamond. Life is like succeeding, especially in a hard area like this in hockey. But it's life. Yeah. When you succeed, it's not because it's easy. Mm-hmm. And for those of you, you might look and like. Some of the kids that play with Charlie might say, well, he's got it easy, right? They're going to say that. I'm going to argue that. I'm going to say he's got some opportunities that maybe some kids haven't had. He's got me and he's got you and he's got our friends, but you can be friends with him. And he's got a gym and we talk about what he needs to talk about, but he works his ass off and he hasn't done anything yet.
Right.
He works hard and he's talented, but he hasn't done anything yet. So the point of all this is that, and I hope the kids get it, I hope the parents get it, is actually when it doesn't go your way, even if it does, the metaphor of a diamond of intense pressure and heat, that's going to be your life. To succeed, there's going to be a lot of that. And you have to embrace it. And on the other side, you're just going to be a better person, better hockey player, better life. Yeah. It is what it is.
Well, and even for me, like you said, I'm only 26, and I would say the same thing for me. Like the reason that, like something you've said about me before is handling like pressure situations or when things get crazy, how I seem like I'm the same all the time. Like I'm either the one example I'm thinking of right now is when you talk about me when I'm was in my exam seasons, right? Yeah. When normally people are freaking out, not sleeping, not eating, like whatever to try to get through their exams. And I was like the same, like coming to the gym at the same time, doing the same thing, not any more freaked out than is necessary. Yeah. And the reason I'm like that is because things that have happened to me in the past, and most people have stories because problems are relative. So things in my past that have been really difficult for me to deal with, I took the path of figure out how to, like you said, deal with this, learn from it, become hardened by it, so that the next time it happens, I can do an even better job handling it or bouncing back from it or whatever. Because you're gonna constantly be getting hit. Like our line of the day is shit sandwich today. You're gonna get them all the time in life, all the time. You're gonna get shit, and it could be at school, it could be with your girlfriend, it could be from your family, it could be someone you really care about moving away or passing away, or you get cut from a team, or what. These kinds of things are gonna happen all the time. And if you can take those and become resilient, and like you said, you're that diamond now, where everything just kind of bounces off you, nothing's cutting you. Yeah. Because you callous yourself. That's a David Goggins thing. You callous your mind, you callous your body, you callous yourself to deal with this stuff. Then as you progress through life, you'll be more and more resilient. You can handle more and more load. You can handle more and more pressure. You can deal with those things. And now you're valuable. Again, with the diamond thing, now you're valuable because you have the ability to deal with that. And in the context of hockey, that's what everybody wants. Yeah. Everyone wants that guy, that player that can handle the pressure, that can handle the heat, that will deliver when it's everything is on the line, that can keep going when things are tough, that can keep going when they're tired, that can keep going when they're hurt, that can keep going when all those things. And this is just an exercise in that. You not getting drafted, it could be your first lesson in this. This could be your first lesson. You're 15, 16. Here's your first one. Yeah. This is your first one. Bounce back from it, figure out how to deal with it, and then become stronger and move forward in whatever way is appropriate for you. And
the more that you get coming your way, it just means that you're moving and doing, right? If you're standing still, you don't expect anything to happen for you. And just to maybe, I don't know if this finishes off or whatever, but I just look at this wonderful business that I have, this awesome life that I have. My wife said it the other day. She goes, you got to be proud. She says it to me all the time. You got to be proud. And I kind of go through it and I go, yeah. But when we talk about this, it's like, I didn't make the NHL. I worked my ass off. I was talented. And I was devastated. And it was all I knew. And I seriously look at it. I'm not just saying this. I mean, I'm not saying I'm glad I didn't. But if I did make the NHL, being the mental midget that I was at the time, where I just didn't have, I'm not saying morals. I had morals, but I'm not saying trying to think. The mental toughness, the mental awareness, resiliency to people pleasing a little bit, all these different things. I wasn't like a strong person at the time. So if I would have made the NHL, I don't know what actually would have happened. Mm-hmm. Would my dad, who's not alive anymore, he made it very clear that if I made the NHL, I'd take care of him. What does that mean? Does that mean like really take care of him? Yeah. Like house, car, that's what he expected. That's his expectations. People handing their hands out like that. Would I help them out too much? Mm-hmm. Would I like this? I like my beer too much. Like, I don't know what would happen. I'm not saying it would or wouldn't, but I have a feeling like I'm an all-in guy. So like I said, if I have a beer, I'm not having one. Yeah. So if I have $1 million in the bank doing that without having the brain to go with it, it's actually scary to me, because I wouldn't want to be to play and be a 30-year-old man that blew it all. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I would, but that was a definite road that could have happened. So my wife says, you got to be awfully proud of what you're doing, and then to bring Charlie through the loop and to see him, beginning to have possibly some success, but to see that we can do it. So I moved down here without so anyways, not playing in the NHL, good, because what it actually taught me, once I had to make decisions on what are you going to do. And I tried different things in life, and I just didn't like them as much, and it always brought me back to hockey. It's just my passion. And my passion in hockey, more than just the hockey itself, is just making people better. My business has allowed me to do that over and over and over and over and over again. In fact, the reason I'm telling you this is because I just thought about like that new goal that I set for myself that I'm not sharing with anyone. You'll find out at some point if it works. If it doesn't matter. But I look back over the last 20 some years, and prior to that, the hard 7, 8, 9 years, probably 10 years, no, 8 years, hard before I actually launched my business, and then getting it off the ground, just the hours and doing it with integrity, and then understanding that sometimes you're going to do this with integrity, and sometimes it just doesn't seem like it's paying off because some yahoo can come and just steal from you or do a half-assed job, and it just seems like, is integrity worth it? But you stick to the principles and you do the right thing and do it hard, and then the next thing you know, you have an opportunity. I opened a gym, and I thought, okay, that'll be good, and then that gym was like, that wasn't so good at the time. Like, it wasn't my best decision, and so you reel back and you fight and you fight and you fight to what I have today. And I'm not saying what I have today is a multi-billion-dollar business. That's not what I'm saying, but I think, like, you would agree that I would be the happiest person you probably know. I love my life. I love everything I do, and I'm very proud of that. But I could have quit. God, I can't tell you how many times. I mean, I lost everything about 8 years ago when things went down. I almost lost everything 10 years ago. But I kept fighting, and it's good. And every time that you get over those hurdles and you accomplish it, it's like you're glad you did. Because the alternative of me not fighting through and building the business and like living my passion means that I might be working for the laborers union right now with a shovel in my hand or a flag saying you can go or you can stop, not living my potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, for sure.
I wouldn't be able to go to the gym the way I like it and live my best life and be a happy person and be able to give to other people, because if I happen to be a laborer, fine, but I really do enjoy my life, and it's worth it to me. Like, every time there's a shit sandwich that comes, I eat it and I keep moving because I know it's on the other side. So when I was sitting there reading the other day, the one book inspired me again to just do a couple things, and it got me thinking like what I was lacking or what I was forgetting about my dream, because it happens, right? See, the thing is, I've said this before so many times, the only thing that stops you from actually doing something is when you take your dream and you shrink it and you look at the problem. And when you start looking at the problems and the issues, that it'll stop you dead. It'll make you feel like a piece of shit. So you have to just keep doing that and keep this in focus. And it's so easy because once you get comfortable, it makes it even worse. You get comfortable financially, you get comfortable in your life, you get comfortable like I don't have to work as hard as I used to work, like in a different way. But now I can kind of be on cruise control, and cruise control is kind of nice in a way. But cruise control also makes you kind of, you know what you're all about, complacent. You know what you're about. Yep. And I can understand why people that are ultra achievers continue to do it because there's something about it. So I kind of reset a little bit, and man, it feels good. You know, not that we always, I don't have goals, but it's like this one, I'm like, I like this. I'm going to go for this. I can do this. And at 52 years old, gives you life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Gives you life. And it's going to give me another at least 10 years of just fired up. I love being fired up.
Yeah, sure.
But you don't get fired up when things are handed to you. So, because it's worth it when you have to fight for it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
That's all I got to say.
No, that's great, man. That's great. We could definitely wrap on that unless there's any other points you want to leave the kids with, or good to go. Good to go. All right,
we're good, guys. Fight, man. Just keep playing. Play this game because you love hockey. I always say that. You love the game. It's the best game in the world. Inside the glass. Play it because you love it. Set a goal. Fight for it. And don't let anyone stop you. That's all.
Awesome, man. We'll leave it there.